Hi, greetings. It's me, Dr. Paul Gerhardt, and this is a video to tell you how to make sure your paper is formatted correctly in APA 7th. I teach a lot of classes that require APA formatting, so please take the next few minutes to sit down with an open mind and pay close attention to what's going on as I narrate. Again, I found this paper by going online and using Google to search for APA 7th edition sample student paper. And this is from the Purdue OWL website. You may have seen my APA 6th edition video, but if you are required to write a paper in APA 7th edition, please pay close attention. All right, so let's start out and notice that there is no running head on this paper. When I first started teaching this course with APA 7th, I didn't realize that this was only the title. I didn't look close enough, and so I mistakenly told people that there is a need for a heading. So there is no need for a heading in a 7th edition APA student paper, but there is a page number that needs to be on every page, and your cover is page 1. Make sure you note that there's no other information required by the page number, like the author's last name. You'll notice in the title that every major word has a capital letter after it. So capital branching, capital path, capital A because it's after a colon, capital N for novel teacher. So you'll notice the 4 is not capitalized because that is not a major word, but this is bold and it is written in title case. So it should be 3 or 4 lines below the top margin in the sample, and there should be 3 blank lines above the title. So that's how you know. You notice it's about 3/4 up on the page. The name of the author, in this case, the author, there are 2 authors on here, and it's first name, middle initial, last name. The department, this is from the Department of English from Purdue University, and the course name, English 101. And then the professor name, Dr. Richard Teeth, and then the date. So it really is important to pay close attention to what's on the cover. All right, let's scroll down and take a look at what's going on. So APA papers, generally speaking, unless your professor tells you otherwise, have an abstract. You'll notice that there's page number in the top right-hand corner, no running head, and the word abstract is bold and centered, capital A. And as in the 6th edition, it is still not indented, so it should be left justified. Here, in a standard convention, abstracts do not contain citations of other works. If you need to refer to another work in the abstract, mentioning the authors in the text can often suffice. Note that some institutions and publications may allow for citations with an abstract, so that's important to understand. You'll notice there's a keywords down here. These are keywords when people are trying to figure out whether or not to go on and read your paper. This keyword section can help. So follow the abstract with a selection of keywords that describe the important ideas and subjects in your paper. These help online readers search for your paper in a database. The keywords list should have its first line indented. Begin the list with the label keywords, and note the italics in the colon. So in the colon. Do not place a period at the end of the list, so no period here. An abstract quickly summarizes the main points of the paper that follows. The APA 7th manual does not give explicit directions for how long abstracts should be, but it does note that most abstracts do not exceed 250 words, and you can find that in your APA manual on page 38. It also notes that professional publishers like academic journals may have a variety of rules for abstracts. that writers should typically defer to. Okay, so this is something that's a little bit different. Here, the paper's title is bolded and centered over the first body paragraph. There should be no introduction in the header. Too often we see people who use introduction as their first header, but this specifically shows that there should not be the word introduction. You've only got the title of your paper here. You can see that they are using an in-text citation here, Theol 2017. They've also used a direct quote. I'm a big fan of telling students that you really need to be the author of your papers, so paraphrase rather than use direct quotes if you're in my classes. The only reasons to use direct quotes, generally speaking, is if the author is notable, like JFK or MLK Jr. or someone famous, or if changing the words would change the meaning or feeling. So if you do use a direct quote, you need to make sure that you are paraphrasing afterwards what that direct quote was about. But generally speaking, you need to make sure that you are using the literature to support your ideas as you're reporting it out. So you'll notice that student evaluation of teacher, they've created an abbreviation SET that they can use from here on out. The in-text citation still says the same last name, comma, date of the article. You'll notice here Theol is the author, and that article was published in 2017. And because it was a direct quote, you'll notice they have a P period space 91. One of the things in APA 7th is that there's only one space after a period, so it really is important. You'll notice there's last name, comma, 1996, comma. So sometimes people make the mistake and put the period before the citation, in-text citation, but that's a very common mistake that you probably lose points for. So you'll notice here's a list of several sources, and they use an ampersand rather than an and. Too many people lose points in classes where APA formatting is a grade by putting the word and there, but there's an ampersand instead. So Gaff and Simpson, comma, 1994. So if you go in the reference section, you'll notice in the G area that Gaff and Sampson, there's a reference there. So you don't put author's initials in the in-text citations, with the exception if the author has the same last name as other authors. So Lewis, 1990, comma, space, 1996, semicolon, Makichi, comma, 1996, and then you notice where the period is. So I see a lot of papers that are very often formatted wrong, so hopefully this video is helpful. Here you notice that because they used another direct quote, here they have used the author, comma, 2007, comma, space, period, space, 178. So the author's last name is Pounder. 2007 was the date of the publication, and you can find this direct quote on page 178, and then you notice the period at the end with one space. So you make the note that when listing multiple citations in the same parenthetical, list them alphabetically and separate them by semicolons. So you notice G comes first, then L, and then M. So that's what they're talking about there. Again, here's another direct quote that was used, and you'll notice P period space 130, and the quote, end quote, comes before the in-text citation, and then there's the period afterwards. So you'll notice that in this last sentence of this paragraph, they mention the author, and then the date. So whenever you mention an author, the date should come directly afterwards. And then to show that this was all related to what this author had said, there's the end of the in-text citation out here, P period space 733. All right, so here they have done something a little bit differently. Selden, 1993, as cited in Pounder, 2007. So Pounder referenced Selden, and so they're still giving, or I said that wrong. So Selden, as cited in Pounder. No, I said it right. So Pounder referenced Selden, and but because they didn't have the Selden article directly, the author of this paper used Pounder. So you'll see Pounder there. Here we've made an indirect secondary citation. We've cited a source that we found cited in a different source. Use the phrase as cited in the parenthetical to indicate that the first listed source was referenced in the second listed one. Include an entry in the reference list only for the second source, Pounder in this case. So here you notice this is something that also is different, the use of et al. It used to be for APA 6 you had to list all the authors once before you can use et al. Well, now APA says that sources with 3 or more authors are cited. You can first list them with et al. now. What else? Okay, so here's something that's kind of new. It's APA headings. So, APA headings, generally speaking, go level 1. You have to have a level 1 before you can have a level 2. And level 1 is bold with all capital letters and centered. Level 2 is still left justified and bold. But here's the new thing. It used to be that level 3 headings went right in the paragraph. Now they're not. They are now left justified and bold, but they're italicized. So this is the new APA 7th level 3 heading. So it's bold, flush left, and title case, meaning the first letter of each word is capitalized, and it is also italicized. Level 4 now goes in the paragraph, and the headings are bolded and written in title case. They are also indented and written in the line. So it is not in italics, but you'll notice that it is in the paragraph. Let's see what else pops up here. Okay, so to list a few sources as examples of the larger body of work, you can use the word see in the parenthetical as we've done here. And so you'll notice this citation is C.E.G. Bloom et al. So that's kind of new. Level 2 or level 3 heading, it looks like it's in italics. This citation presents quotations from different locations in the original source. Each quotation is followed by a corresponding page number. Okay. Okay, so here's an indentation here. Quotations longer than 40 words should be formatted as a block. Indentations, the entire passage, it says 1/2 inch And then here you'll notice the difference is it's PP period 8 through 9. So, and you'll notice that there's a period before this here. When citing multiple sources from the same author, list the authors, then list the years of the separate sources. So this Noach person published an article in 2007 and 2009 about the same topic. All right, so level 1 heading is bold and each word is capitalized. Level 2, each of the major words are capitalized, it's left, justified, and bold. Here you notice these are in italics. Italicize the anchors of scales and responses to scale-like questions rather than presenting them in quotation marks. Do not italicize numbers if the scale responses are numbered. So you got to use this in context, of course. All right, so here you'll notice they have included a figure. And tables and figures are numbered specifically, 1, 2, or 3, however many you have, of course. They are identified via a second level heading, flush left, bold, and title case, followed by an italic title, and which briefly describes the content. So you'll notice the use of capitalizations here also. You'll notice that there's a note here. The table and figure notes are preceded by the table, starting with the word note, period, written in italics, and apply to the entire table and should come from specific notes indicated with superscripted lowercase letters that correspond to specific locations in the table. So you can, of course, find this paper by Googling APA 7th edition Purdue OWL sample paper PDF, just like I did. You'll notice the C appendix for additional sample items in the paragraph. Level 1 heading, use of bullet points. Okay, let's look at the reference. So here we are. You'll notice that the word references are on a page of their own. It's not included in the previous page with the conclusion in it. It is here with a bold level 1 heading. You'll notice the sources, capital letter last name, comma, first initial, period, comma, ampersand. A lot of people forget to use an ampersand in there when connecting the last author, last name, comma, first initial. So you'll notice some use first initial, middle initial. So some authors, when they publish, they use their middle initial and some authors don't. So if they use their middle initial on the paper, you need to include it in your reference. Notice where we have italics, it's the publication titles that are in italics here. And then now you'll notice how they use the DOI. This is kind of changed. They're using it as an HTTP web address. So that's one of the things that has changed. Note that sources in online academic publications like scholarly journals now require DOIs or stable URLs as they're available. So if you find it online, you need to make sure that you are copying that reference into it. So you see that the title of the article is not in italics, but what is in italics is the name of the publication with capital letters for each of the parts. American Economic Review. That's the name of the publication. The journal name is American Economic Review. And you'll notice that the only capital letter in the title is at the start of the title of the article, and then this "the" is capitalized, obviously because it's after a colon, and UK is capitalized because it's the name of a country, formal name. So Again, look at the spacing. There's always a space after a period except if it's followed by a comma. And then you'll notice there are 3 authors here. So if you were referencing this reference as an in-text citation in your paper, you would be saying Bacon, B-A-C-H-E-N, et al. So notice they have in here you've got the italics for the publication number, the issue number, the volume number and then the page numbers, 656-665. No spaces, and it ends with a period. Again, last name, comma, first initial, period, comma, space, ampersand, connecting the last author, last name, comma, space, first initial, period, space, date of when it was published. Article name is not in italics, but the publication is idea paper. So just some subtle things to say. The chapter in an edited collection has the page numbers listed this way, and you notice the end with a period. You notice this one, the DOI was not available. Anyway, just some things to think about. I do encourage you to find this paper online, download it as a reference, and read all of the colored notations on the side just to help you better understand these. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful. Thanks so much for taking time to watch this thing all the way through. I hope that you have a great day, because only you get to choose how you feel about it. I'm Dr. Paul Gerhardt.